This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We're up to Siman Lamed Beis, Seif Mem Daled. We're one day ahead. We have Yom Tov is Thursday, so that's one day we'll be behind. And then next week it's Wednesday, Thursday. That's 3 days. And then you have Erev Yom Tov. So let's see. Today today's a big day, just what today's day. We're up to Siman Lamed Beis, Seif Mem Daled. Titura de Tefillin. The Titura of the Tefillin, this is a Titura, okay? This is the bias proper. This is a Titura, the larger box on the bottom, and where the Ritzua passes through is Mavarta. Halach Moshe Sinai, V'hainu sheyasim or lamata. It's Halach Moshe Sinai. You put hide below. L'chasos pi habatim, to cover the face of the bias. V'nira ke'ein daf shel gesher, and you're going to see somewhat of a board, like a bridge, hanikra titura, ma'avarta, hanikra titura. So, that is the titura. Basically, this. It's diagram 3, and the Titura de Tefillin is Halach L'Mashiz V'Anu Sheyasam Ar L'Mata L'Chasos Pi Habatim. Okay, so it's basically this piece that's going beneath the bayis proper. It's interesting. The bayis proper itself has something on the bottom that protrudes around its 4 sides, but it's sort of open. You know, the underside of it is open, so you put a piece of hide underneath it, but it also has something that fits over it. Okay, that's the Titura. Let's see the Mishna Berura of Katan Reish Aleph. Sheyasim afilu das asavim dehabatim tzrichim liyas kulam me'or echad mamish. Even those who hold that the batim have to be entirely from one piece of hide, mikamakam loy ba'inan sheyehei hatitura v'hamavartim abatim me'or echad. You don't need that the Titura and the Mavarta are together with the bottom from one piece of hide. In other words, this entity and that entity are 2 separate hides. That's what the Mechaber means. You should place. If possible, now, I guess let's see the Bir Halacha quickly, and this is going to be this diagram. Okay, he says over here in the diagram, I Mishna Berura of Kadam Reish Aleph in the Efshari Toiv Lahadi Gam Zelotzes Dasa Machbirim. The Dasa Machmirim is Rashi in Menachas Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph. The Rambam also holds like Rashi. To make the Titura and the Mabartim from one echad. The Go'oinim argue, I assume I'm reading here the Bir Halacha, but first I'm reading the picture. The Go'oinim argue, and the Riyah Menachas Daf Lamed Hey, and the Shiurim of Megazis, and the Rush, and the Mordechai, and the Torah, they also hold like the Go'oinim. And the minhag ha'olam is to be meko like the Go'onim. It doesn't have to be or echad. Toiv lahad l'tzis gam daitam. Even though the Rosh and the Mordechai are masha, is better not to make it may or echad. But that's not, whatever their cheshbon is not shayach in our time. And he brings Rabbi Kiva Eger seems to hold that it is better to have it from 2 different pieces, and the Bir Halacha does not conclude that way. Let's see the lashon of the Bir Halacha inside very quickly. It says Ayin Mishna Berura, which is to be yotzei 1 piece, which is the opinion of Rashi and the Rambam. And even though the Go'onim argue, and it's basically word for word, the Ri and the Rush hold like them. And he says, Minhag ha'olam kavasayu, mikomakim tov lahadol says gam daitam. Okay, basically, the Chavetz Chaim seems to be very courageous over here, because there are Rishonim that seem to say it's better not to make it from one hide, and Rabbi Kiva seems to concur with that. The Mishna Berura, the Be'er Halacha says not like that. The Be'er Halacha says to be choishish for the Shita of Rashi and the Rama. Now I will tell you, I don't know what we do. So all of you who speak to Seifrim every day, who you bump into Seifrim on after Shacharis, all of you, I never see a cipher unless I go to, but all of you who you're constantly bumping into Seifrim, find out, what do we do? Our tefillin, to the Lamaisa, are we makbid like the Be'er Halacha? Are we makbid like the Rosh and the Mordechai and Rabbi Kiva Eger not to do it? I don't know.
When I recently went to buy tefillin for my son's bar mitzvah, the cipher showed us the whole slideshow in pieces. It's one piece that's put into a press.
Mm-hmm. Where was this?
One thick piece. We're in Titura Stam.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One thick piece they use the cow's neck because it's very thick.
Mm-hmm.
And they press it and they wet it and they press it. It's a whole process.
That's where the expression, you have to have thick skin. You want to become tefillin, you have to have thick skin. So, okay. Okay, we'll see what our spies come up with. Okay. Sivkatan Reish Beis. No, we're not up to that yet. Weiter in the Machaber. Ma'avarta de tefillin. So the Ma'avarta is where the Ritzuas go through. Halach l'Moshe Sinai. Behind sha'ar hatitura yehe aruch mitzarechad. The height of the Torah should be longer on one side. V'yasabay ha'ma'avarta. You make the Ma'avarta. How do you do that? Ketzad. Yachtachenu b'shnei tzdadim. You cut it on its two ends. Shaloi tehe ruchava. So it should not be wide. K'may roichav hatitura. Like the width of the Titura. Kedei she'enika ribu hatitura. So that the squareness of the Titura should be recognizable. So, let's see which picture. Picture 4. They're basically like this, very simple. This is the Titura. You want the Titura to be square. The thing is, you're supposed to make it longer on one side. So basically, you cut it out over here and over here so that the squareness of the Titura is recognizable. And then this way, the Ma'avarta is sort of seen as an appendage, an additional piece, but it doesn't affect the squareness of the Titura. Through that Ma'avarta, the Ritzua passes through. Ve'al kach, because of that, Nikres Ma'avarta, it's called the Ma'avarta. Gam v'tfilin shel yad, also in the tefillin shel yad, yasa Titura Ma'avarta. You should make a Titura Ma'avarta. Whether tefillin shel rosh or the tefillin shel yad, we should make a Titura and a Ma'avarta. Mishna Berura Sivkatan Reish Beis Yehe Arach Dem Nifsika Mutter L'Taifra. If it falls off, you could sew it back up. Here, so look at the picture. I don't know why he calls it nifsika. If it's nifsak, you could sew it back up. I would have thought it means if it sort of gets severed over here from the top, where the piece of the Ma'avarta is falling off the Titura, you could sew it up. That's how I would have read it. Maybe it's not true. Maybe that you can sew. Okay. Sheihe nicker ki gam Titura tzrichu midin lias meruba k'ma shekzal lam b'sif lametes. Fine. Weiter in the Machaber. Yigalgel. Okay, so this is sort of a new halacha. I mean, it's a big page today, but we have to finish it. Yigalgel kol parsha misoifa l'tchilasa. You want to roll up each parsha. Now in the tefillin shel rosh you have 4 parshiyos, and tefillin shel yad you have 1. So you roll up each parsha from the end to the beginning. The karcham the klaf katan, and you wind it in a small klaf. So let's see the pictures over here. First of all, okay, you're winding it from the end to the beginning, like over here. So Shema, you wind from the end to the beginning, and then and what about this halacha the karcham beklaf? Oh, the karcham beklaf katan. You sort of after you after you roll it, you box it in a small cloth. V'yesh makidim milakarchan ela b'klaf kosher. There are those who are makbid to wrap it only in a kosher cloth. Fine. Let's see the Mishna Berura on that. Misayfa l'tchilasa be'esh shenosin lebeser. When you put in the bayis, kamay mezuzah sheneglelas me echad klape shema. You do it from the word echad to shema v'loy lehepach mitam shenes Rabbi Yodea siman reish pei ches. For the reason mentioned in Yaradea, which, and it's, by the way, it's a mitzvah, it's not li'kuva, this picture says. The karcham. And then you box it. If you don't have other B'klav katan, v'adin b'chatichas beged, or a piece of cloth, and some are makbid to do in a kosher cloth. Not from an unkosher animal. But a cloth, even this opinion would hold that that's good enough. It's just if you can use a cloth, it should be a cloth kosher. Beisos says the reason. The kivin shu maybe cloth. Once you bring cloth, it has to be something that is motor lepicha. It says mantia taras Hashem beficha. We dash in motor beficha. Kamay labatim or it's just like the batim mitzvos. Hagram efak bek bedin zeh. Whether the cloth that you wrap the Parshiyos in has to be mutter beficha. Weiter. The halacha l'moshe misina sheyikrich aleha seir behema ichayatayim. So halacha l'moshe misina that you wrap it in the hair of a kosher behema or chaya. Says the Mishna Berura of Kadon Reish Ches. Lachenim loy karach haseir aleha pasol avshe karach aleha klav. Therefore, if you don't wrap it in a hair at all, even though you wrap it in a cloth, it's kosher. So over here you have a picture. Here's the parsha. Here it's wrapped in the cloth and it's tied. Weiter in the Ramah Haga. V'noigin lichrich seyar ala parsha. The minhag is you wrap it in a hair, you tie your hair. Then you put the parchment, cloth kosher of kosher cloth. The chozim v'karchim of seir. So hair, parchment, hair. That's the minhag. Where does that minhag come from? Let's see first if there's a picture. So here you have the parsha. You wrap it in the hair, you put the parchment, and then the hair. What's the opinion of this? Some say you should wrap the hair on the actual parsha and then wrap it in the klaf l'mala. Therefore, we do both of them. The Gra says, don't sweat it. Either way you do it is okay. The Mechaber continues. The minhag is to use the hair of a egal. Why? Sivkatan Reshud shall egal kadesh yizkar masa egal. In order that we remember the Maisa egal v'la yechta. Just some interesting ha'ara. One of the sheish zechiros that you're supposed to remember every day is the egal. The Magen Avraham says you should remember the chet ha'egal when you say be'ahava, baruch atah Hashem avachamam, so be'ahava, that now Hashem loves us, but the chet ha'egal He didn't love us. But maybe you could be mekayim the mitzvah of remembering the egal by thinking that. So it's interesting. You wrap an egal to remember the egal. Really, you're thinking about what's going on inside your tefillin. So apparently you should really, apparently you should. But Rashi, I just saw right before the Shiur, Rashi in the beginning of Shemini says that Aaron was supposed to bring a carbon for the mlum of an egal. So after Rashi, you have in parentheses, I in kategar nasa sanegar. Why is he bringing a carbon to mechaber the egal with an egal? So Rashi says that not Rashi, but the printer brings that that's only ba'avodas pnim. There's an issue of en kategar nasa sanegar, but the carbonis is avodas chutz. But lemaisa with the tefillin, Rabbeinu Bechaye says is connected the kodesh hakadoshim. So how are you going to have an egal in the kodesh hakadoshim? The answer is the purpose of the egal is not to be mechaper for the egal. The purpose of the hair is not to be mechaper for the egel. It's for you to remember the egel. Right? Rashi doesn't say that it's a kapara for the egel. Rashi says for you to remember it, so you shouldn't sin. By the way, the Radvaz wrote a sefer on the mitzvah. The Derech Kabbalah, he says the reason for the seir egel is it's shoichad l'satan, because tefillin is such a holy mitzvah. There's no way the satan's going to let you put it on unless you throw him a bone. So you say, "Don't worry, satan." We're reminding Hashem of the egel. Anyway, Mishna Berura continues. V'gam v'gam kedei lechaper al avoin zeh. It's also a kapara. That's interesting. So how does that fit in with Ein Kateg Nasas Negel? Because of El Yoraba, the Mizah Tam Tov Las is called Tikkun Tefillin Me'or Egel. Accordingly, you should make all fixing of tefillin from the height of an egel, as opposed from those who make it from a tayish is like a male goat. Okay, a little bit more. Zakta Machaber. Okay, what if you don't have an egel lying around? You know, what if, let's say, you go into your pantry, there's no egel. So you'll probably have a cow, or an ox. Make sure you use good shampoo on the seir. Until it's clean. Okay, until it's clean. Says the Mishna Berura. No Mishna Berura. Weiter. A little bit has to extend outside. Shiur l'chutz l'batim. It has to be apparent from the outside. Says the Mishna Berura Sivkan Reishirav K'taser I'm b'Magen Avraham I'm b'Chedusha Rabbi Kiveger Shiskim Shaser Hayoytze Yeh Pachos Me'oirech Sa'ira. Look in the Magen Avraham and look in Rabbi Kiveger. They're masking that the hair that comes out should be less than the length of the hair. What does that mean? Here, let's do the diagram. So here you have the four Parshiyos. Kadesh v'haya kviyacha shma v'haya im shamaya. And they're tied up. The Parshiyos are tied up. I'm not sure what that means. That it should be pachos me'orech sa'ira. It should be less than the length of the hair.
The length of a barley.
Oh, sa'ira. Thank you. Less than the length of a barley corn. So what's he saying in the diagram here? Okay, so he says, look in the Magen Avraham, and Rabbi Kiva Eger. Sounds like the Magen Avraham says it should be less than the length of Sa'ira. Thank you, Rabbi Yeager. Okay. Chutz labatim. It should extend outside the bat. Now, which hair? Because each parsha is tied up with a hair. So which should it be? Kadesh v'hay kviyacha shmar v'hayim shemaya. Mishna Berura says yesham sheya itzel habayis shemunach by Parshas Kadesh. Some say it should be by the parsha of Kadesh, which is the first. Yesham itzel v'haya im shamaya, which is the fourth. The Tov sheyatzim Parshas v'hayim shamaya. B'tzad hapoine leParshas Kadesh. It should be from the Parsha V'haya Im Shamaya on the side that's facing the Parsha of Kadesh. So not like in this picture. This is by Kadesh or by V'haya Kiviyacha. So I assume it should be over here, by V'hayim Shamaya, and it should be facing close, meaning it shouldn't be at the end of V'hayim Shamaya, it should be V'hayim Shamaya on the side of Kadesh.
Diagram Aleph.
Diagram Aleph, I guess. Right. Diagram Aleph. Okay, everyone. Shkoyach. So we'll see everyone tomorrow, and we'll map out the rest of the Zman. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Shkoyach. Bracha v'atzlacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.